Hey there, welcome back. I'm Amanda, your life coach with Illumination Unlimited, and I am back with Brandon.
Hello.
Hey there, and our new guest today, some of you might recognize her. This is Teddy. We also know her as Karen Teddy. You'll see why.
Yeah, she's shivering furiously.
I know she's just terrified. She's got stage fright. No, she's going to be in the video with us today because we were trying to shoot and she couldn't stop barking at the neighbor who was walking through their own backyard. That son of a bitch.
You just wanted to show off this nice bath you gave to her. You were proud of your work, and no, the people are going to see it.
That too. She looks good.
She does look good. Very Yorkie-ish.
She's going to be a good reference point for the video we're going to do today too.
America's top Knox. There was a next top Yorkie right here next to Amanda.
Just saying. Anyway, so what we are talking about today is guilt and how it affects your life. So, Brandon, would you say is guilt a good thing or a bad thing?
Amanda, it can be both.
Oh, really? Do tell.
I think it's good that it keeps us humans within a moral compass of not chopping each other's head off. And, when you do that, you typically probably would feel bad about it. So a lot of us don't do that. So
gotcha.
That's where, it's good to have a guilty conscience, in certain situations, but it can be used negatively when other people use it against you to manipulate you. Exactly. You can over guilt yourself into things where that becomes a problem. You over stress yourself out. So yeah, it's all encompassing. It can be all the above. It really can.
Absolutely. That's a perfect answer. And so like we were discussing before we shot when we were doing our pre-video discussion, it kind of dates all the way back. Another one of those primitive things in our brain that it's there for a good reason. It would keep one caveman from, clubbing another caveman over the head to take his wife or whatever. Having guilty feelings is a good thing. That being said, like you mentioned, some people use guilt as a manipulation tool to get what they want, meaning that they have ways of making another person feel guilty in order to get them to do something.
Which commonly, that we're talking to, that commonly kind of goes hand in hand with gaslighting. They're pretty interchangeable. It can be the same thing. Exactly. It can exacerbate, guilt when someone's using it against somebody.
Right. So, well, and usually a lot of times gaslighting, it'll come in when the actual just regular guilting isn't working, when preying upon somebody's, I guess, their kindness, their good-heartedness, or when that's not working and the guilt trip isn't doing it, then they'll come in with the gaslighting to throw the gas on it, so to speak.
Right.
And then what makes you kind of an easy target for that type of manipulation is there's sometimes it's not even somebody else manipulating us, it's that we're guilting ourselves. And there are some, and again, I use myself as an example, like I do in a lot of these videos, because it's like anybody that can relate, I might be the right life coach for them.
That is why you're doing what you do. So it is good that you have a lot of relatable life experience. So it's okay, roll with it.
Well, and just say, and anybody's watching any other videos, you get the point that, the way I grew up had a lot to do with some of the things that I've experienced. And certainly being a guilt-ridden individual was one of those effects. And it started from the time I was a kid, my sister would, we'd be eating and she would finish her food. We'd get one little tiny piece of pizza and she'd still be hungry. And so, she'd be like, I'm starving. My stomach hurts. Please, can I have your piece of pizza? And I would feel guilty. So I would give it to her and I would go hungry. And, and then, I would feel guilty if I couldn't do all the things that my friends wanted me to do. Feeling, guilty because my friends would be upset with me is why I ever gave into peer pressure in the first place.
Right.
And then when I became an adult, especially, I started really putting a lot of guilt on myself that other people, outside forces, weren't even trying to put onto me.
You were just kind of programmed that way. Always some kind of level of guilt for parents. It's just there. And good parents are going to feel that. So I'm sure you did.
Yeah, it does make you a good parent, kind of, yeah.
Definitely. But it can carry. I'm saying you're naturally, even to a point where it's unhealthy, it's well intentioned. It's with good intentions to feel that way. But I imagine parents, just that guilt is there. Right. Sometimes, sometimes high, sometimes low, but it's probably just always there. And I imagine as a good parent, you're probably going to feel that at some level or to some level.
Exactly, because your kids' lives are going to be difficult at some point or another. And yeah, that's just going to happen. And so I think we were talking about, like, ideally we would just like not to have bad guilty feelings for no reason. So how do we make those feelings go away? How do we stop feeling guilty when we shouldn't feel guilty?
I do not know.
Well, and so, yeah, until recently, neither did I. The answer is you don't. Hear me out. So you have guilt triggers, like, let's say, your friend calls you up and they want you to do something, and you've already got other plans or something scheduled, so you can't do the thing that they want you to do. And then even if they don't say anything to make you feel guilty, you still feel really bad and guilty, and you put that on yourself. That's a normal response. And so what you do, instead of fumbling all over yourself and going ahead and stressing your whole day out trying to figure out how to accommodate everybody because you feel bad, you just acknowledge the feeling and then understand, like, I can't make everybody happy all the time. You kind of get an internal dialogue that you would say to yourself to talk yourself down. And then the more you do that, and I think we've discussed the first question you ask yourself is it logical that I'm feeling guilty right now? Like, does it make sense? And then you
does the situation call for this level of guilt I'm feeling? Does this make sense? Do these line up? Do these two line up?
Yeah. And if it's, I got, wasted at my friend's wedding and embarrassed her, and, and myself in front of you have a logical reason to feel guilty.
And you should.
You owe an apology, and you need to do some reflection on your life.
Now, if you don't care and you don't feel like I should feel guilt for that, I mean, that's when that's
a whole other problem.
That's typically the trait or characteristic of a sociopath.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Or if you're just like, shit, I'm like, well, I can do what I want. Yeah, that's not cool. So you should feel guilty about that. Or if you answer yourself like, no, I already had plans. I have to say no to doing something that somebody wants me to do. And even if that person wants you to feel guilty, even if they take you on said guilt trip, like, you're like, oh, nobody's ever there to help me. There's all kinds of different ways that people can make.
And abusive people will do that.
Oh yeah, they can incite guilt, and that's for sure.
I mean, it doesn't have to be just inherently the situation. Mm-hmm. Saying no to what they ask. I mean, then some people will keep, continue feeding into it and incite it, like you said, and not to say like everyone that does it is an abuser, but it's typically the characteristic of someone that doesn't abuse someone emotionally or take advantage or manipulate. That's a tool.
It is. It's just another tool in the toolbox. Exactly. And it's one of those, those type of people tend to keep bringing out the tools until something works. And so once you put up all the defenses, and when guilt no longer works, boy, that really upsets.
Oh, it does. But it's empowering. You took the power. You took the power that they had. So it's good for you. Sure. Sucks for them.
Yeah, but when that no longer works, it's like, at the end of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, when they realized how you defeated Freddy was to not be afraid of him anymore. Right. Well, when you no longer feel guilty, you take away the power
that they had over you.
Yeah, exactly, of the guilt tripper, and then you take your power back.
I mean, do you think, and people that over guilt themselves, is that just a product of being insecure too?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. It's like I say, it's a learned behavior.
It's environmental too.
It can be tied into, people pleasing. It's, that's why.
I was thinking, that was going through my head. And actually, when we were talking about this, I was kind of thinking how this related back to a few weeks ago when we were talking about people pleasing. So it's very similar.
Another couple of things that go hand in hand for sure. But if you're a people pleaser, then a lot of times you do that because you feel guilty first, or you feel guilty after the fact because you can't please somebody the way that you tried to, and it's just a big old ball of mess that you definitely want to work out. And so again, like I said, if you don't have a logical reason to feel guilty, then you just kind of sit with the feeling. You understand why it's there. You're like, oh, well, that's there because when I was a kid, I always felt guilty when I couldn't do this or this for my friends. You just kind of talk yourself down. The way, imagine again, if you had a friend come to you and say, oh, I feel horribly guilty about this thing that's not my fault. And that person shouldn't feel guilty. Just talk to yourself the way that you would talk to that friend.
Exactly.
Would be the best piece of advice there.
Mm-hmm. And give yourself your own. I mean, it's easier. I mean, because it's easier, not just with this. I think it's always easier as an outsider to give help or advice than having it happen to yourself. And that's just the way to kind of use that strategy, that tactic of like, just apply this, whatever you're feeling. Like, how would you tell somebody else from an you have an outsider's perspective? How would you counsel this person? And it's just internalizing and trying to do it to yourself.
Yeah.
So
And the more times you check yourself when you're making yourself feel guilty for an illogical reason, that the less and less that will happen. That's another one of those things that the more you actually notice it happening and you address it in the moment, it's like now, or it's just a real brief blip of a, normally I'd feel guilty about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talk about the best teacher in learning how to deflect guilt is this young lady right here.
She's a gaslighter. She's a manipulator. She's a guilter. She does all of it, and she gets you sometimes.
Oh man, she gets me good.
So she has to.
I've gotten better about not caving into a lot of people.
You have to internalize that therapy you say you give to somebody else. You have to do that with yourself. With
yes, this is my greatest lesson of all, because I can't explain to her why, like, hey, listen, it's not time to eat. Just because I'm on the phone doesn't mean that you slapping your dish angrily and glaring at me is going to make me feed you.
She has no idea we're talking all kinds of shit on her right now.
I sometimes I think she does. I don't know. It's like earlier.
Yes, I am. I really am talking.
She was getting stage fright and tucking her head.
How's she doing? She got the shake still?
No, she's loosening up.
No, she's gonna give her a couple more. That she's gonna be a diva.
Exactly, but yeah, boy, this little dog here, this 7-pound Yorkie, is a master of manipulation.
So, as someone that was used to be overcome by guilt, if you can master her and her guilt, tactics. If you can overcome that, you can overcome anything.
Exactly. That's when I know I'll be at master level. That's when I'll finally write my book. So far, she still gets me, but I'm a lot stronger than I used to be.
Once you tame that tiger, that book is going to be written.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, I think that really sums up what we wanted to talk about when it comes to guilt. So just remember, it can be a healthy thing. Some of y'all should feel guilty for some stuff. So think on that.
Don't be a sociopath. Feel guilty when needed.
Exactly. Don't ignore those guilty feelings when they should be.
It's funny. Every topic we've had, it just always circles back about, that balance of those things. And guilt is healthy, but not too much of it's not. It's pretty simple.
It's that B word.
It's simply said. It's harder to apply. So it's just something, again, self work that people have to do if they're struggling. If not having enough guilt or having too much guilt, it's just about somehow finding that balance, and
absolutely
everything else will fall into place.
Exactly. So very well said. All right, guys. Well, from all of us to all of you, have a wonderful Friday and have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.